Hi, my name is Willie Lawson. I am the teacher in the Saxophone Factory. The Saxophone Factory is housed in Studio 19 at Music Showcase um, in Brandon, Florida. Like I said in the open, I started private teaching saxophone lessons back in 1985. 1985. That was before the internet, before smartphones, before YouTube tutorials, before the quick tips and hack culture. 41 years. This is not a side hustle. This is not dabbling. That's not nostalgia. That's 4 decades in the studio. And if you think this episode is about me celebrating my longevity, yeah, you'd be wrong. This episode is about what 41 years of watching students either build success or avoid it has taught me about discipline, culture, talent, and truth. Because after 41 years inside what I'm calling the Saxophone Factory, I can tell you something that most people don't want to hear, that talent is overrated and excuses, they are predictable. Okay, let's start here. In 4 decades, culture has changed dramatically, but some things have not changed at all. For instance, long tones still matter. Tone still tells the truth. Breath support still matters. Finger techniques still require repetition. Scales still separate the serious from the casual. A saxophone does not respond to opinion. It only responds to work. You can't argue with the horn. You can't negotiate with intonation. You can't tweak your way into better articulation. The saxophone is brutally honest. And honestly, that's why I love it. Because after 41 years, I've watched students walk into my studio with dreams. Some walk in believing that they are actually gifted because they've been told so. Some walk in believing that they're not talented enough. But fortunately, the instrument doesn't care what they believe. It only responds to consistency. And that, my friends, has never changed. All right, for a second, now we're going to talk about what has changed. Attention span. The expectation of speed. How quick is something going to happen? I have adults come into my studio and ask me, so how long will it be before I master this? My common response is, well, how long do you plan on living? All the really good players that I know, and I know a lot of them better than me, a lot better than me, never feel like they've mastered anything. Something that has changed is parental posture, cultural messaging. Because back in 1985, when a student didn't improve, the assumption was simple: practice more. So today, when a student doesn't improve, the questions are more like, well, is the method wrong? Are you teaching them wrong? You're not teaching them in a way that they is that, or is the instrument holding them back? This is my old Bundy 2 from high school. Maybe it's their instrument they don't like. Maybe I should get them a brand new instrument. Or maybe it's just not their thing. Maybe they should try drums. Maybe they should try trumpet. Maybe they should try, you know, hammer dulcimer. We have shifted from a culture of persistence to a culture of options. And write this down. Options are the enemy of mastery. Go ahead, write it down. Options are the enemy of mastery because mastery requires repetition beyond boredom. Mastery requires repetition beyond boredom. Because the moment you get bored is the moment growth actually begins. Frankly, most people never get there. They stop at mild discomfort. 41 years has shown me that excellence is not mysterious. It's repetitive, and it's usually quiet, and it's never accidental. I have had the pleasure of having students who walked in with what we're going to call natural ability. They put the instrument in their mouth and they've got a nice sound. They have a naturally good ear. They can hear. They've got good finger coordination. And then I see some of those students plateau because they assumed what they came with was going to be enough. And I've also worked with students that have struggled mightily. They got weak air support, they got thin tone, their technique is not good. They've got a Black & Decker instrument, Black & Decker mouthpiece. And then I've watched some of them become extraordinary because they practice with discipline. The difference? Not talent, not genetics, not luck. The difference is consistency. In every decade, students who become leaders were not the most gifted, but they were the most persistent. They practiced when they didn't feel like it. They did fundamentals when it was not glamorous. They respected the boring. That pattern has held steady. I'm going to say this one more time. That pattern has held steady for me for 41 years. Now, here's something that applies far beyond music. You can't fake tone. You can't fake tone. Now, you can fake volume. And you can fake speed. And you can fake showmanship. But you cannot fake tone. All of you who are watching, you cannot fake tone because tone reveals breath discipline, embouchure stability, long-term consistency, and internal control. Tone is character in sound form. And if you rush fundamentals, your tone will expose you. If you skip long tone exercises, your tone will expose you. If you choose flash over foundation, your tone will expose you. And that's why the saxophone is such a powerful teacher, because it tells the truth immediately. All right, now this is not for everybody, but this does tell a story, and it may talk to some people. Because in 41 years, I've also watched something else. I have watched that parents matter more than talent. So when parents value discipline, students improve. When parents outsource discipline, students will drift. The best students I've taught had parents who didn't demand perfection. What they cared more about than anything was effort. They created a structure, they brought the instrument, they brought the lessons, they protected the students' practice time, and they understood that growth takes friction. In order to get better, things are going to get hard, and people are going to be frustrated because growth takes friction. The students who struggle the most often lack consistency at home. No rhythm, no schedule, no accountability. And culture begins in the living room. You cannot compensate for chaos with inspiration. All right, now, back in the 80s and 90s, students sort of expected to work. They did. They knew that it would be hard. They knew that it would take a long time. Today, I'm finding out that many students expect to improve quickly. And it has to do with the digital age that's trained us to expect instant feedback and fast results. And this is one of the reasons that I started this channel and that I approached it the way I did. Early on, I said that we have a quick tips and hack culture. If you've been a person at the Saxophone Factory, you found that that's not what I do. That I started with the Rubeck Elementary method, and I went lesson to lesson, exercise to exercise, lesson to lesson, talking about it all. No quick trip, no quick tips, no hack, just work. Because music doesn't operate on a timeline. Breath development takes months. Embouchure strength takes months. The muscle memory that you need in your face and in your fingers takes thousands of repetitions. Thousands. So there's no download button for mastery. And here's a very hard truth. Students who embrace slow progress win. Students that embrace slow progress win. Students that chase fast validation quit. One of the things that I tell my students, especially my youngsters in my studio, is that I will never lie to them. If it's good, I'll tell them so. If it's not good, I'll tell them so. So you're not going to get the validation a lot of times that you want. But I also tell my good kids that are moving on, I'm probably going to be the last encouraging word that they have in their studio. When they go to a lesson, I'll probably be the last encouraging voice they have. But I'm rough on them too. That pattern has not changed. The students that embrace slow progress win. Only the frequency has changed. Now, the Saxophone Factory is not just about producing better players. It's about producing disciplined thinkers. Because music teaches delayed gratification, self-correction, focus, listening, and humility. Because you cannot improve if you can't hear your own mistakes. You can't grow if you cannot accept correction. Let me say this one more time for y'all in the back. You cannot grow unless you can accept correction. So you have a teacher. You cannot master something if you are allergic to repetition. If you're somebody who who minds the word again, then this may be hard for you. Music reveals emotional maturity faster than most activities because you can't hide from sound, and sound doesn't lie. One of the most beautiful things I've witnessed over 41 years is transformation. That shy kid who gains posture. That uncertain student who gains authority. That distracted student that learns focus. And it never comes from hype. It comes from earned competence. Confidence built on applause will fade. Confidence built on preparation lasts. I've seen it over and over. Students who did the work walk differently. They speak differently. They handle pressure differently because discipline builds internal stability. And also, after 4 decades, I can predict the excuses. I was busy. I didn't have time. I practiced in my head. I haven't heard that in a while. I practiced in my head. I'll get to it next week. And excuses haven't really changed in 41 years. I hear stuff like, well, my cousins came to visit. I said, when do they come? He said, and people will go, Saturday. But today is Thursday. What did you do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today? Uh, uh, I was busy. Go back to that again. Back into the I was busy loop. Okay, now the only thing that changes is the words. The excuses haven't changed in 41 years. And here's the key: excuses are not moral failures. Doesn't make you a bad person, but they are signals. They signal misalignment between desire and commitment. Students who grow are the ones who eventually say, no more excuses. At that moment, they pivot, and that's when growth accelerates. Now, this culture loves the phrase, they were born with it. But my friends, excellence is built. Breath is built. Tone is built. Technique, it's built. Leadership is built. 41 years in private instruction has shown me something undeniable. The student who succeed long term are not the ones who are born ahead. They are the ones who built daily, brick by brick, scale by scale, long tone exercise after long tone exercise. So, why does this matter beyond the saxophone? Because I'm not just building saxophone players. I think all of this matters beyond the saxophone because we live in a culture increasingly uncomfortable with the process. We want outcomes without foundations, which is why if you get the outcome, it usually collapses because there's nothing holding it up. We want applause. We want notoriety without the repetition. The repetition. We want mastery, but we never want to be bored. But the laws of growth have not changed. They were true in 1985, and they are true in 2026, and they will be true in 2045. You cannot fake preparation. You cannot skip fundamentals, and you cannot bypass discipline. The Saxophone Factory is simply a laboratory where these truths are visible. 41 years means some of my former students have children of their own. Wow, they do. Oh my gosh. Some are professionals. Some are professional sax. Some of them are professional musicians. I have teachers. I even had a student who was an engineer that worked for NASA. That was cool. Again, some of them teach, some of them, and some don't play anymore, but they've carried that same discipline into whatever they're doing now. And for me, that's the real legacy. Not trophies, not solos, not applause, but habits. What turns them into who they are now. If music taught them focus, persistence, respect for the process, then the factory did its job. Again, in closing, I started private teaching back in 1985. Here's what 41 years has taught me. Can't fake tone. You cannot, you should not, you must not rush fundamentals. You cannot outsource discipline. You can't make it somebody else's responsibility that you don't practice, that you practice. And you can't build excellence accidentally. The saxophone does not care about trends. It only responds to truth. And truth, when embraced long enough, builds something durable. Built, not born. And that's what 41 years inside the saxophone factory proves. Thank you for watching. Now go practice.